Hey everybody, and welcome back to Shit Creek Survivors, where we share stories of resilience and tools for resilience. This week we'll be meeting Brandon, an Army Ranger who works in psychological warfare. He's got some great material for us and a great story about being surrounded by the enemy, having to call in a near close gunship, and surviving it and being able to tell the tale. It's a really great story. Here we go.
Dudes don't typically talk the way that we talk, so we figure why not? If we do it, then others might think
I
along
think a
those
lot of
same
people
lines.
are doing it. If you notice, if you follow like some podcast trends, there's a lot of famous people that are talking more and stuff, and not only just about their genres of sports or whatever that, or actors or whatever thing that they're from, comedians. They also are talking a little bit more about like health problems and mental problems and BSing about their problems, and that's a good thing, man. I love seeing it. Because let's face it, we grew. I don't know about you, Brandon. I'm pretty sure you could probably say the same thing. We grew up with the whole like rub some dirt in it and get over it, right? And in some
Yeah,
ways, in some ways it serves a purpose. I get it.
I kind of still live that way, and I know I've talked to you about it many, many times.
I
But
figured you might go that direction a little bit.
yeah, I've got boxes that box up on boxes that I don't even want to freaking touch yet. I always figure I'll deal with everything later, and it comes from
I'm the
the
same
mentality
way.
of just rub some dirt on it and move on. But then you get to a point where you do it with all your emotions. You're like, just rub some dirt on it and move on. So you get to the point to where it takes real extreme stuff to even get really a rise out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing what you get used to sometimes. Is what it comes down to. Well, quick, just for a little backstory here, real quick. Brandon and I first met because I stole his job. He was supposed to get a promotion. I came in out of nowhere and stole it from him. We ended up working together. At first, I don't think it was the best of friends that we ended up becoming. At first, there was probably a little tension, but it didn't take too long to realize that he wasn't a very bad guy, and I don't think he realized I was a very bad guy. So
Nah, I
it
only
just
took a
wasn't.
couple days.
And
We had
then
a lot
he
in
was in the
common, though.
he was in the military also. We never worked together in the military, but we had a lot of stories that overlap and are similar. And I imagine some of that will convey in this podcast as well, because we're going to be talking about resiliency and stories of resilience. We just kind of started scratching the surface. Brandon likes stuffing those things in the boxes and just leaving them there. I was very much the same way. I think I still am in a lot of ways, but I'm trying to break it a little bit. I'm trying to deal with some of them. It's not easy. It's life changing. It's altering. But go ahead, Brandon. You take the floor a little bit. Talk to us a little bit. You're a longtime fan too, right?
Oh yeah. I've been watching your podcast.
I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Some of them are really good, and they're all good. They all have a good place, It's
Yeah.
just, yeah. I don't know. Like Dennis said, we were both military. I started off. I was in Ranger Battalion. Actually, after Dennis and I stopped working with each other, I ended up going back active. So that's what I'm doing again now. But now I do psychological operations. No, not like. You hear that, and it's nothing to do with like psychology. Well, it is, but it's not. Like, we don't sit people down in a chair and talk to them. If we do sit them down in the chair, it's just get other information from them. But like you're saying, I've always been, even from younger days, the type that I just, if something bothers me, I put it away, and I have this great ability not to think about it.
It's good because it'd be good to think about
it. No, exactly. The problem with that, which I run into every once in a while, is things that I should feel emotion on, I don't, and I catch myself doing it. Like, hey, I should be a heck of a lot more tore up about this, but maybe it'll just take me a little bit longer to feel it. And I move on, and I shouldn't. Alcohol, never really been a problem for me. Like, granted, we've all done our stupid stuff with alcohol.
Yeah.
I still drink it. But like I said, I know a lot of your people that you've had on, they use alcohol as a coping method.
Right, but not everybody does, and that's
no. I was just saying a lot of the ones that you have on, or any kind of, it doesn't even have to be alcohol. It could be anything from
right.
painkillers to meth to whatever,
What was it? We decided we started calling it pleasure-seeking behaviors.
There you go.
Pleasure-seeking behaviors, and you do that to self-medicate to get through whatever little sadness you're having from the trauma. Whether you're just thinking about it, even the small stuff, whatever it is, things that get your endorphins going up and feeling better about yourself.
And you're right. It is pleasure seeking because if anything, I would be more considered one of them sex addict type people that, like, okay, so I'm messed up. I'm just going to go get laid. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about that. I'm not going to think about anything else. But I mean, talking about traumas, it's just something that we never really do unless we're, naked drinking in a hot tub somewhere.
No idea where that would happen.
Yeah, maybe. I guess you had to be there.
Cam's been invited. He just doesn't want to. He just doesn't want to show me his hairy butt. I guess I don't know.
Oh, man, you're missing out. You got to wait till it's dead winter though, and your beard.
Yeah, it's starting to get too warm now.
It's too warm for that now. But
well, what else do you think people in the military or yourself or like-minded individuals in situations like this could do to be a little bit more healthier with dealing with their trauma besides getting laid, looking at porn, or drinking too much, or any other drug of choice?
I found that during hard times when you are struggling to, digest some stuff, physical activity helps a lot. It really does. I'm not saying hitting the gym, but even if it's going for hikes or doing but you got to keep it in whatever your body can handle because, let's face it, not everybody stays in shape even a little bit. So I'm not saying I'm going through a stressful time. I'm going to head out and hike 20 miles. No, I'm not saying that, but being out in the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very overlooked,
I agree with you. And like what you were saying, it's not about being in shape. It's about like sometimes just moving helps you process. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I literally I can't talk about it anymore. I got to have a little time. I got to almost like look at the ground as I'm walking and like I'm able to kind of sort some stuff out. And like you said, that was a really good word, digest. Like it takes a moment to like really kind of process and digest when something's happening, like even to identify what's happening, like what the hell is this, like why is this showing up like this? I think that was really well said. I was curious, like for me, what's really weird about like PTSD is or like my trauma is it shows up in aggression, and it's aggression that I didn't really know I had. Do you have any symptoms, or do you know guys who have that same kind of reaction where it's like, it's almost like being hyper aware and kind of, just jumping on stuff.
Yeah. Most of the guys I know are very hyper aware, not to the aggression side, but just overly hyper aware.
Yeah.
For me, actually, I was very aggressive as a kid.
Okay.
I've actually mellowed out a lot more when it comes to the aggression side.
Cool.
It takes quite a bit to get a rouse out of me, unless I'm drinking.
I was going to say, I got a couple stories that might say differently than that.
But don't get me wrong. I'm
telling me you're dancing with that girl?
Yeah. I like to fight. Always have.
Okay, so maybe you run a little hotter than you realize as far as in the calibrations of between Cam's story and your side. Maybe you guys are right around the same, but for you, you're saying it's more normal. You're used to it. Maybe for Cam, it's more abnormal, not used to it. And it's his coping mechanism to feel stronger in his moments of weaknesses where he overcompensates, but with the anger or whatever. We've talked about that before. I hope I didn't butcher how you said it before.
But, no, that was really well said for me. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That maybe they're actually a lot closer together than you realize. And it's just, you're more used to it or whatever. Plus, I would say this too about stuffing things in the box. I feel like it worked for me for so many years. because it felt like you were more prepared for something more to come up again
Uh-huh.
Yep.
because you weren't thinking about the last thing that had happened. So it's almost like it served a purpose by shoving it in the box as many times as I did because I needed that to survive as well because I was in an environment that was fast paced that something else was always going to pop up, whether as a military or or as a police officer. But now that I'm unpacking it, I feel like if something happened now, my wound is already kind of exposed. The scab is already peeled off. And I mean, I've gotten into a little bit of family drama with some family members, and I feel like it hurts me more now than it probably would have before because I feel like everything's raw and sensitive and exposed. So maybe keep it in the box will work for you a little bit longer if you need to.
Well, no, and I definitely
Just
have
be
a few
prepared
more
whenever.
years.
Be
Um,
prepared for the time when it's time to unpack it. Be ready for the
and
support to go with it too, and I'm here for
I
you
don't
too.
know. I don't know how I've managed to do how I'm able to split it because those, the stuff I put in a box, yeah, it's kind of like I don't allow the emotional side to affect me. It's not that I don't just put it there and forget about it, right? Because a lot of that stuff I take it as a learning point, as in, okay, what can I do different for if I get in this situation again, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not taking the emotional side of it. I'm just trying to do just the logical side of it. And like I said, that's what gets me in trouble. Like my mom passed away a couple years ago. You remember that? And there was like little family drama going on. So I didn't focus on, oh, my mom passed away, even though my sister and I are taking care of everything. I'm focusing on like, okay, well, I'm not going to allow this family drama, blah, blah, blah. Like I can't, do anything at this point because I have this going on. But once this is over with, then I can focus on this and blah. Well, by the time it's all said and done, I never went back and focused on this. And then it's like, okay, so then I'll even try to.
Yeah,
And
now
it
too much
doesn't.
time has gone by. Just let it
Yeah.
pass.
So,
Yeah.
And come back to bite you too.
oh, definitely. And I know eventually someday it's going to. I guess I'll have to deal with
Oh, yeah, just I mean, yeah, but if you do it on your terms, you could do it a little bit more prepared and a little bit more like with a checklist of okay, I know this is going to happen, this is going to happen. I know I need to address this and I need to address this, and maybe make your SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses. What was the O?
Opportunities and threats.
Opportunities, yeah, and threats.
Yeah.
And instead of just making a pros and con list, you're making a 4-point list with strengths, weaknesses, uh, opportunities, and threats.
So
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a spontaneous utterance here. I'm just thinking about what we're talking about. And, there's probably people out there who can keep everything in a box forever. Like there probably are. And it's probably just they're able to do it. Because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be handling any of my trauma if I could keep it in the box. You know what I mean? But I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of us who like eventually that box gets so packed or let's say agitated or hot or whatever it is that eventually like you can't run from it anymore. I wish I could have figured out a way to kind of not deal with it. You know what I mean? Because I think that's a
Maybe
game
it's
where
almost more like a filter than a box. We're
Yeah.
just filtering
And
the emotions of it, and then emotion starts to build up and clog the filter. You're gonna have to clean it off every once in a while. Anyway, go ahead. That was my spontaneous utterance.
that's a good way to put it. Maybe it's more like a filter because
Yeah.
if I could leave it, I would. Like I'm not telling people, like let's talk about feelings. It's like this shit is like I can't get rid of it. And I
mhm.
don't know what to do because it's burning a hole in me and I can't talk to anybody about it. You know what I mean? Like it's more than just like, oh, this bothers me. It's like things are showing up in my life related to this trauma. And you know what I mean? And for me personally, my story is like being aggressive, just like being combative with everyone. I'm a victim for a long time, all that kind of stuff. And it was really just me not what, it's just such a weird thing that three grown men are standing here talking about trauma. And again, we've talked about it, a lot, but the idea that none of us can shake it. None of us can contain it. Like it's just like this thing that keeps happening to dudes our age. You know what I mean? It eventually like is starting to pop up. And I wish we could keep it like subdued. I think we all would if we could, but it seems to be more powerful than we want it to be, and until it basically bursts through the surface, for me, then I'm like, fine, I guess I'll deal with it. If I could keep it in, I would, you know.
Bursting at the seams. I can see it coming out of his mouth. Go ahead. What do you got, Brandon?
Oh, well, I was going to say is I've met the people that have kept everything in the box their whole life. My dad being one of them, my real dad, you know, ex-Vietnam guy, blah, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's able to control it and he can be happy-go-lucky, but I really don't think he's living his best life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can keep everything locked away, but it makes its way out. I'm not saying you're going to act out because he doesn't. I'm not saying, but he has kind of like closed himself off in a way on a lot of things, you know?
Well said. Yeah.
So
A lot of those
yeah,
Vietnam vet guys.
I don't really think you want to be somebody that's just been able to keep those boxes closed forever. Like some things have to come out, I think, in order for you to live your best life. Or
Yeah. I guess you would have to be emotionally numb forever for that box to not really
and then
bother
you're not going to live your best life, because what are you missing out on if you're just emotionally numb to everything? Because I realize it with me on a lot of stuff where I'm like, I should not be emotionally numb right now. I should be feeling something right now. This isn't right. Yeah. So like I was saying, you know, they keep it there and they don't end up living the life that they could be living now just because of the emotional numbness. Now on my dad's side, I will say now that he's in his 80s, you can kind of see him softening up a little bit, especially when it comes to the grandkids. But, you know, I think that's, you know, the closer to death, maybe. I mean, I'm hoping he doesn't die anytime soon, obviously. I'm just saying that.
No, I get you.
Maybe that's more of an eye opener. Like, oh, well, I've been shut off all these years and everything got packed away in these boxes. Maybe I should start unpacking the small stuff so I can make room for some of this good stuff, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way to put it too. Clean off that filter a little bit to let some of the emotion come through. Go ahead. Sorry, again.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying, that's interesting you said that. I kind of saw my dad do the same thing. You know, my dad was, 82nd Airborne, and then he went into the DEA where he was a secret agent. And, he always had this like aura of just like, law enforcement and all that kind of stuff. But towards the end, I did see him, and especially when the grandkids started showing up in those last years, really soften up, like really kind of, it was pretty beautiful, if I could say it, like watching him let that love in, and watching him kind of like be present in the moment, compared to just being like, hey, little kid, boom, and then move, just actually being there and all that kind of stuff. That's interesting you say that. And and like all those guys were basically, it seemed like coach. I mean, imagine going off to war and then coming back and people are spitting on you. You know what I mean? And you can't talk to anybody about what's bothering you because they might classify you in a certain way. Oh, you're one of those people. Oh, you know what I mean? And what a shitty thing, and what a terrible place to be in that moment, where you can't talk to anybody about it. You got to get to work, got to do your thing. Just give me a job. I'll put one foot in front of the other. So yeah, that's interesting. You say that whole like generation of dudes is just, that's what they did.
Exactly. And, I have troubles with the younger generations, I have to say. I don't understand them. I don't understand their language on a lot of stuff.
I imagine our great grandparents would say the same thing about us.
Probably. Well, maybe not. I guess it depends on, how you were raised. Like raising differences. Not saying one's better than the other, but like my dad, he's coming along right after the Great Depression, so they're still broke, as heck, and that's how he grew up, and then that's what he's pushing on to us is this is how you should be acting too. And then I don't know, because sometimes I feel like I'm failing as a father because my kids are just wild. They get away with shit that I would never, ever in a million years even have tried. And that's our fault, because it's kind of like, well, I don't want to be too mean, I don't want them to, well, and then a lot of that is like society telling us how we're supposed to be doing things now.
Well, yeah,
And
the whole home structure has changed so much over the last 100 years. 100 years ago, we'd be homesteading somewhere, farming probably, and our kids would be working the farm with us. They wouldn't have time to be on social medias and learn about social justice warriors and protests and they'd be too busy trying to plant corn or whatever we got to grow on the field or the animals that we got to take care of, feeding the animals. Like we're just completely different now. I think we've gotten too bored. We've gotten too easy. It's gotten too easy.
no, it's definitely too easy. But the problem is, then us as parents are failing too, because it's so much easier to be like, oh, just go play on the damn phone. Get out of my face. I got things to get done right now.
Yeah.
Because you ask them to clean their room and it's World War III.
Yeah.
It's like, never mind, just get out and I'm going to clean your room. Just be quiet.
I guess the one thing we had growing up, like our generation, since we had those dads, I was scared of my dad. You know what I mean? Like I was flat out, like if I got in trouble during the day, my mom would be like, we're telling your dad. I'm like,
Wait till your father gets home.
Exactly. Wait till your dad gets home. And not only is he finding out, but you're telling him. And you're just like, oh no, this is like all day you're scared, and then eventually you get the words out. Dad doesn't have to say much. You're just like, okay, good. I'm gonna go do it. I promise. Like I'll be better. This will not happen again.
Yeah, but just a look could get you shit in your pants.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Like just the aura of like, oh no, dad's coming in the room.
It's not the same anymore with the kids nowadays, that's for sure.
No, and I'm one of them. My parents, they're like, I'm horrible.
Yeah.
You do what you can. I mean, like you were saying, there's so many more things to push back on now. It used to be like your freedom was you could leave the house, not on the phone, not on the computer, but it was like your only freedom was the ability to go out of the house and hang out with your friends. Maybe as soon as you got in trouble, boom, you're locked in.
Oh yeah, because they would take the one thing away from you, which was your freedom to go. And when we grew up, that was 8-9 hours of not being anywhere. Your parents didn't even know where the hell you were at for that time.
Exactly. And you didn't do much.
And they were okay with it. And we were okay with it.
Yeah.
And everybody was okay with it.
Yep.
Yeah, neighborhoods, watching over kids. That was a good time.
Yep. But see, and that's one of the things I do struggle with too, because I know with my kids, there's a lot of things I'm emotionally numb with as well that I shouldn't be. And I catch myself with that as well, because it's like, okay, I should be more excited about this, or I should be more into whatever it is that's going on, right?
Yeah, but give yourself a little bit of pat on the back for recognizing that. I mean, that's not easy either. Yeah. I mean, and you're probably missing a couple times here, but if you're catching it a couple times, that's a good sign. That's a real good sign.
Yeah.
Count your wins. Count your wins.
So, I mean, I guess that's what eats it. That is the one thing that I allow to eat at me, is whenever I'm just like, oh, and it'll sneak up on me at any time, because it'll be like, I'll be watching a movie and I'll be like, oh, damn, I didn't react appropriately to this. And
you laugh when baby died.
Yeah. And then I find too that I do like fake laughs a lot too, because I know I'm supposed to laugh when something's supposed to be funny, and I'll do, like I've learned how to.
I've only heard one laugh from you. Has it always been the fake one?
Maybe.
There it is.
Exactly. But no, I mean, no, some things are real, but yeah, like I don't want to say I'm emotionally dead by any means.
Is it tougher to be like in the room, present in the situation, and you're like, because you're somewhere else, you're not able to have that emotional connection, or is it just something else?
I mean, it just doesn't strike me the way it's supposed to strike me at the time, I guess you could say, because if I'm in the room, I'm paying total attention to what's going on. My brain's not wandering. I mean, now don't get me wrong. There's some instances where with certain people that obviously my brain, like when my wife is talking, obviously my brain's somewhere else, but that's just
it's just a guy. Is that a guy thing?
It is totally a guy. Well, I don't know. I know a lot of females that do it too, so I can't even say that, But
I think everybody probably does every once in a while.
Yeah, but No, I mean, most of the time I'm present, I'm listening, and then I just take cues on everybody else. Like, oh shit, was that supposed to be funny? Okay, or oh shit, oh, and even sympathy. I'm horrible at sympathy. There's a lot of times my wife's like, "You're just a psychopath." You're blah blah blah, and I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like, trust me, I know the difference between right and wrong, and it's not all about me. So I'm not egotistical. I just don't feel what I'm supposed to feel at the moment.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's amazing that you actually can observe that because a lot of people have no idea that that's going on.
That makes the
Including-
filter analogy even better than the box analogy even more because it's just that emotional connection is filtered, and the filter is dirty with all the gunk that you've been hiding, and it's not coming through into your daily life like it's supposed to.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess that'd be the best way to put it right there.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, just kind of an analogy for it, I guess. So
Mhm.
how do we clean that filter off? At least a little bit. Just rub a little clean, a little happiness through.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have my times. The unfortunate thing is for me to like get a big rise out of anything, it has to be something, I don't know, almost like a thrill seeking type thing, to be excited about it. And it's weird because I'm not talking about like amusement parks, most of the time I'm still like, oh, yay, roller coaster or whatever. I don't know. It has to be.
A good one.
Yeah, it has to be a good one. Like even jumping out of planes now, that doesn't even faze me. It's just kind of like, yay. I hope I don't break my leg or my back this time, or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope I don't get hurt. But
Come on, the first thing you think when you jump out of the plane is this. Wee. I know you do. You go wee.
yeah, I probably think it's a lot of morbid shit when I go out of an airplane, but
I never had that bug.
it's not a bug. Trust me. I'm old, man. When I hit the ground, I feel it. So it's like, that's the only thing I'm thinking about is this is going to suck when I hit the ground.
Yeah.
Try to roll.
Yeah. But the body doesn't like move like it used to.
Right.
Even rolling takes effort.
Yeah. I found that out after I got hurt. Like, you're from the point you're young to like now, if you were to fall over, you know how to tuck and roll. But when you get like really hurt and you're like atrophied, I fell like a tree and like nothing like happened. Like my instincts and all that muscle movement did not kick in. I just went boom, just straight into
my
it.
body knows what it's supposed to do. It's just 5 minutes too late doing it,
Yeah. Yeah. It's the gift of getting old.
Yeah. But I don't know.
You got any stories?
You
got any stories you could share with us that kind of went to the box? You don't know. There might be some you can't, but you got any you could that kind of was really like a Shit Creek kind of story, like a resilient story that you had to, test yourself a little bit, overcome yourself.
I do. I have it where we were up Shit Creek, and it's a funny story, but at the same time, I can tell you I was scared to death at the time.
Perfect.
So we're on a deployment and we're in the mountains, and there was no loom. So this is early 2000s, so like 2001 time frame, and couldn't see anything. Nods were worthless. And we kind of got down into a cove in the side of the mountain, and up above us, we heard crap ton of movement, and we couldn't make out what it was. And we were sure that we were surrounded. So, we called Spectre, which is, the gunships, first of the 60th. And, radioed in our location. We set up our IR strobe to let them know exactly where we were at. And all they could get was heat signatures. So they had no idea what was, and they were just around us. So then, so we called in fire on our position. We just kind of hunkered down, tried to dig as far into the ground as you could, And so they just, for a good 15 minutes, just let up all around us. And we stayed there until morning. Luckily nothing landed on top of us because those guys are pretty good at their job. And, scared shitless. Never been so scared in my life. Like, you can shoot at me and I'm fine because I can move. At this point, I don't know what even come at us and being surrounded. And it was a herd of goats. So we took out a goat herder and a herd of goats.
Yeah, that's really funny. It was probably just mush.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. You can find pieces of them,
Like, oh,
Imagine some of the stories you guys shared when you're laughing about this the next day back at camp.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it was a great funny, like, because where you're at, you couldn't like show fear or anything. Like, you're not going to talk about the fear side of anything because that's one of those things. Oh no, man, we're bulletproof. We're this, like,
right.
I mean, even stateside, right? When I was doing the scuba course at the Puget Sound, part of that was they take you way out in the Puget Sound, about a mile offshore, and you go out there in the Zodiacs, and then they throw you out and you swim back towards the fire, right? And you have a time frame to get back. And there's currents. Well, no one told me that orca hang out in the Washington coast area up there.
Yeah.
And sharks do not scare me. Orca, no, man, they're fucking ninjas. They're black and they're white, and they're no. So we're heading out to where they're dropping us off, and all of a sudden you look over and you hear, and there's like freaking a pod of orca out there, and we're like, and the instructors are like, all right, guys are going to be getting in the water, and you're like, hell yeah, bro, trying to act like you're all freaking. I never swam so fast and hard in my life as I did today. I still have nightmares about that. And another thing, so what I'm getting at is, it doesn't take major traumatic events like the first story to like mess with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You want to know what I dream about the most? Where I wake up in panics?
What's that?
When I did college, I always have these panic dreams that I did not get my assignments done. Like,
That's so weird. I had those too. I had those all the time and like people get in my way and I can't
yeah,
get to the place. And it's like, yeah, that's a weird thing. Yeah, that's so funny.
like those are some of the worst dreams that I have is just about that time period. Now granted, that was also while I was active duty when I was doing the courses. So, I mean, I was probably more stressed out than the average person during that time.
Right.
But
that's the association that you put to it, was the schoolwork.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you're right. The stress was all encompassing. The
Mhm.
straw that broke the camel's back, per se, was the classes, and then that's the part that you think you dream of the most.
And that's why I never try to judge other people's trauma, because everybody's built differently.
And everybody grieves differently with their trauma.
Oh, exactly, for sure.
I think that's probably the thing I've gotten the most responses from people whenever I've gone to like funerals and stuff. And somebody's like, well, they're doing this, they're not doing that. And I'm like, everybody's grieves differently. And they go, oh yeah. So cut them some slack. You just do your grieving, control what you can control. And I've had to say it to myself. I've had to say it to friends and family members. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing to remember for all of life, everyday life. You don't know what everybody's going through. Cut them some slack. Cut yourself some slack. Don't talk to yourself like you wouldn't talk to anybody else. All those things. I still want to be in that tent, though, having coffee the next morning, talking about those goats. I want to be on a fly on the wall to hear some of those conversations. I bet there's some very un-PC things said in that tent.
Oh yes. It's stuff I won't say here, but
I'm imagining the farmer coming out the next day being like, what the hell happened to my goat?
I'm pretty sure he was up there with them.
Oh, okay.
He's no more.
Just hopefully he wasn't caught in the act.
Right.
Pants down.
I
have heard stories.
You said you were going to say these things.
Sorry. I'll roll it back.
But no, that's fine. No, I think it's important. No, this is part of what we do here. We try to shoot straight as we can, right? Why do we joke like that? Why do we say, distasteful things or un-PC things after trauma?
Oh man, it helps you deal with it.
Man, it somehow it just like, well,
It
it
makes
goes back
light
to
of it.
it. Does, it makes lights of it, but also what Cam and I've discovered a lot through this is sometimes you have thoughts in your head and just putting them out into the world to a buddy, to a coworker, to a friend, to a family member, can sometimes shed light on a perspective of that discussion or that problem that you didn't really think of before.
Uh-huh.
Like it gives it some gravitas. It gives it some reality. It levels it out a little bit. It balances it, the power from it. The scary power of it in your head when you don't really know what to say. You put it out there, and all of a sudden it's less scary. Somebody else says something funny too. And it's the same thing. You guys were all scared shitless that night. There's nothing wrong with that. Should have been nothing wrong with being able to say that in the tent, except for the idea of putting it in the box and holding it down so you're not scared the next time you go out.
Uh-huh.
That's when they put it in the box comes into play as a good thing.
Yeah.
But you guys are making those jokes to get it out of your head.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound so bad in your head. So it doesn't have as much power. And yes, sometimes it's trying to say the most effed up thing you can say in a situation. And man, have I trained my brain to do that. I'm trying to detrain it some now because I catch myself every once in a while going, man, I'm shocking myself right now, and there's no reason for it. I'm not winning any points in the barracks BSing with the other soldiers, I'm in front of my wife and my niece and my mother-in-law. I don't need to be saying some of these things.
I know. I try not. I'm right there with you because I'm still real bad about it. Because the kids and the wife, they're always like, "Well, your mom does this," and then they'll come at me and they'll be like, "Well, your mom stinks," and I'll be like, "Well, yeah, most likely. I'm sure she smells pretty horrible, right?" Just like, and they're like, "Wait, that's messed up," and I'm like, "Well, I mean."
That is funny.
Yeah.
And I bet it's like one of the things is it's a way to talk about it without giving a signal that it's bothering you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If you can,
no,
if
that's
you
probably
can,
right on.
you can probably get it out in the air. Like that was fucked up when that guy's head blew up. You know what I mean? And then you can almost like laugh about it, but it's a way of kind of like getting it in the air and sort of like
Deflating
independently
the tension.
sorting it out. Yeah, like sorting it out and trying to get a bearing on how other people are sorting it out and how they feel about the situation so that you don't end up being like it's probably a way of like protecting yourself, you know.
Absolutely.
Is my response relatable or relative to what they're showing, because if I'm outside of that, that's not good. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to see someone else like on my team or something like that. If you think about it, you look around and make sure everyone's good too. You're not just playing the part of I'm good. It's also you're looking around at people are like, you good? Are you good? Are you good? Are you good? Because you need them to be good, you know?
Mhm.
And if they're
A
able,
lot of this stuff kind of just sorts itself out. Definitely in the military community, in the police community as well. It's just different.
yeah, you get to go
I,
home.
well, yeah, there's that too. But I feel like the camaraderie, the esprit de corps, the build up, the brotherly connection or whatever. They're very similar, but it's almost instantaneous with military people compared to police. And with police people, you almost have to. I mean, and what we say in law enforcement, everybody lies to you all day long. You're used to being lied to. Well, think about how that jades you when you're meeting somebody new for the first time, even if they're another police officer. It takes time to build that friendship and that brotherly connection. Where in the military, it's almost like day one, you start running through some training and get a sense of their abilities. They get a sense of yours. You start understanding how each other operates. You don't have to start talking to each other by the second week, or you could be running CQB drills without even talking to each other in a group of 5 people, perfect triangles, perfect separations and coverages and angles. And it just happens almost like that. And I don't know what that is other than police officers are lied to all the time and therefore their guards up a little bit more even with other police officers when they first meet.
Well, you're also forgetting a key point there. Like you guys as police officers are not around each other 24/7. Where in the military, you are living with each other. Like you're closer to these guys than you are with your family because you're with them constantly.
Yeah.
And you know their little idiosyncrasies that they have, and you know if they're full of shit because you probably know their mom by a month into it. You know, it's like your
But you
family
don't really
because
talk about
you're
it as
living
much.
with them.
Like you don't really talk about it. Like you don't even talk about personality traits or weaknesses or strengths with each other. Like we probably did in the police department. Some we're like, God, they really need to work on their shoot. I don't know. How do you break it down? It's just different, and it's hard to explain. I mean, I've done both, so I can kind of see the differences of it. I'm having a hard time really
Is
enunciating
it
it or voicing it.
like team mentality? Because I mean, the
Well,
truth is, as soon as
well,
you
it's like it's
get
like
on,
it's like it's like that on the mountainside with the goat. They didn't have to talk about being scared. Every single one of them were scared a little bit. You'd be abnormal if you weren't a little bit, a little apprehensive, a little fear, and then but that motivates you somehow, and you end up working through it a little bit differently. It's not touchy feely, but you don't have to sit there and talk about it. You already know. It's an unwritten understanding already. Day one, before you even are on that mountain, you guys already knew that you're going to be scared of being on that mountain, but you already also knew how to deal with it. I have this flank, you have that flank, you're on their comms, you're on that nod, you're on this. Everybody has their. You're like water. You just fill in the cracks wherever there's a little crack missing. You fill it in like water, and be fluid through your movement, whether it's emotional or physical, whether it's during the mission or after the mission, whether it's training or real life. And it's just always there, and so it's just like I said, unwritten. So it's like the connection becomes faster.
Yeah.
Where, and you're right, living with every, showering with each other, poop jokes. I mean, again, we don't get into it. Kiss a
From
little.
day one, like you know everything about that dude, all the way down to how he shits in day one.
Pretty close. Yeah.
It's like you normally don't have that in law enforcement. You have your time to kind of get around. It takes
right.
long, to get around to all these people, but your platoon, shit, from day one, you're thrown in with them, and you're just together. The only ones you don't know very well are the ones you aren't supposed to know very well, and that's your leadership because they're not living right there with you,
Yeah.
and you're supposed to be scared of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And do they ingrain from day one in the military, like your life depends on your team and your
Oh,
team's lives depend on you? So, you know what I mean? Like that is a huge bond, regardless if you like somebody or not. We're the only way we're going to win is if we do it together kind of deal, like a team mentality. And so instead of just like, in a police setting, again, you get to go home and you can kind of digest like, man, if I ever go on a call, I want to make sure I'm watching this person in particularly because they're going to light me up from behind. You know what I mean? So you go home, you don't really talk about it because eventually it would probably come out like if you're living with someone for, even within 48 hours to be like, you would more likely call them out because you have the opportunity to be like, hey, don't light
Yeah.
me up from behind when I'm going through a door. Just don't
Yeah.
do that. And then you kind of sort it out instead of just kind of being like, you know what, never mind, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to watch my back next time.
Yeah. Well,
okay. I
it
mean,
probably gets
prime
corrected a little bit
example.
differently on the spot too. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say prime example of what you're just saying. Obviously, I'm not going to mention any names because we're still friends, and I don't want to put anything out there. But just like you were saying, right? Um, I have a buddy, still a buddy to this day. He was in Ranger Bat with us, and not the smartest guy out there, right? And we need thinkers, not just shooters, but you need thinkers because you're going out. You need people that can sponte the situation. So, anyways, he'd been with us for a good 6-7 months, and great soldier. Like you tell him to do anything, he could do it and do it at a high level. But the problem was, is you had to tell him to do everything, right? There's no argument. He would do it. He just didn't have the quickness of mind, I guess, you really needed to be able to think of what I should do on my own, right?
Right.
And I had to walk up to him, and I was like, hey, so and so, here's the deal. You need to quit and go somewhere else because if we get called out tomorrow, you're going to be dead before we get off the plane. And at that point, it was
Right.
like, Roger. And he went down to the first sergeant because Ranger Battalion's all voluntary. And then he went down to the 25th and freaking gained rank quicker than anything because he might not have been a fit for us where we were at, but man,
Right.
he was a superstar where he ended up going,
Right.
and so
And it's important to distinguish, like, where he went was probably something similar to where I was used to being deployed at. You had more support elements around you. You probably had a bigger group, or bigger groups. Where in the Ranger Battalion, you work in smaller groups. I mean, I haven't been there, so I can't sit there and say I know exactly, but I'm assuming smaller groups, less. I want to say less equipment because you guys say fucking crap load of equipment too, but you know what I'm saying, like less support.
yeah,
You don't have as many people right there helping you get through all the challenges of preparing for a mission or overcoming a mission or even going on the mission.
And that
Where I was at,
self-initiation. Yeah.
yeah, where I was at, it was. I mean, it's a 4 platoon company. Each platoon has what 45 people in it range, 40 something like that. So that's a lot of people in one, and that's just my company. And then I'm in a base that has several companies like that with different
mhm.
jobs to do. So we had a lot of people. If you were on my base, you would have been sectioned off in a little corner and had your own gate codes and locks, and be like, you all stay over there. We're going to be right here because we are self-sufficient, and this is all we want. So he was more set up to be in that position with the extra support elements of Jay. You just do the flanking maneuver here, and he could do it. He could knock down
Yeah,
fleets. But
yeah,
to go out on his own and be supportive in a stealthy, sniperish assassination type of mission, maybe it would be harder to manage him because you would have to micromanage him the whole time, and then that would take somebody away from filling in a hole.
exactly. And then it puts everybody in danger at that point,
Yes.
because
Right.
you have to have 100% trust in everybody, and that they know or can come up with a solution without you having to do it for them.
And we joked a lot too, even in those bigger companies. Like, if we go somewhere, that motherfucker's getting the first one getting one because he's going to get people killed. We would
Mhm.
say things like that too, probably, but we probably didn't have the same pull behind it as you might have had. um,
It wasn't full. Like I said, we were friends even after I told him that. We were still friends to this day. Is he understood? It was just after I said it, it was like Roger.
but he already kind of
And
knew it a little bit himself then.
yeah, and most of them do. They know how they're performing along everybody else. Um, Trauma wise, like all of us have lost people to a form of suicide, one form or another. If it's drinking themselves to death, or shooting their wives and shooting themselves. I had that as well. A lot of them, though, it comes down to, on the military side. Like I said, I'm not speaking for the law enforcement side. A lot of the guys I know, it's not really what they've seen or done; it's what they feel they didn't do and should have done. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That survivor's guilt probably is worse than anything else to me.
Yes, yeah.
So I can concur with that personally.
Because I have it too, where I look at some of my buddies that I was, super close with, that we were supposed to be on the same track together before I got stupid and got out for a bit. And they went on and did what we were supposed to be doing as a team. And then, you hear about them
Yeah.
getting taken out, and you're just like, well, shit, that wouldn't have happened if I would have continued on with what I was supposed to do, because I would have been right there with them, even though, logically you try to tell yourself, man, there's no guarantee you would have been able to do anything. You'd probably be dead right there along with them. But
Probably six
you know,
seconds too. So yeah. But at the same time, you can't help it. It comes in your mind. I mean,
yeah, you can't help it. Even though you try to take the logical way, and I sit and try to talk myself through so much stuff. I'm always like, the logical side of this. Like, let's break this down. But then it makes you feel a little better. But then, you'll never totally talk it out of your head, and it'll sneak up on you. You can be driving down the road and be like, fuck, man, if I just would have, like, if I would have just stayed for a year and I would have been on that, and that, he would still be here and blah, blah.
can I just say this real quick? First off, I think it's completely normal that we think that way. I feel that way too. And I do the same thing too. I try to do some logic, talk through it. But at the same time, I just want to throw this out here real quick. I think with the kind of, okay, I'll just say it with you in your situation right now. with you're talking about right there, with the kind of training that you've been through and the experiences that you've been through and the job that you were created through all these experiences to do, I want you to feel like if you were there, you could have changed the outcome. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the kind of personality that you need to have
Oh, yeah.
if you're going to be in that kind of position. So I don't want you to like. I don't think we should take that away completely. But yeah, honestly, if you were there, probably dead too. I mean, that's
Yeah.
logical. But to have that personality, that drive, that alpha male, like, but I could have done something different. I mean, like, I want you to have that kind of mentality. That's like our soldiers should have that kind of mentality. Our police officers should have that kind of mentality. I had a similar one too. A bank got robbed in the town that we worked at. And it was a bank that I went to often because I used it as for my own banking. But I would go in there and just like say hi real quick, talk to the manager, make sure there's nothing new happened around the area. And I was going there to do that one day, and I noticed a car backed into a parking spot that normally is a forward because it's a one-way street, but it was backed in right there. And I was going, that's odd. And as I was getting ready to dive into that, I mean, I just barely had that thought when I got called to the station to go talk to somebody. So as I drove by and I was having that thought, I'm on my way to the station now because I got called in. I'm like, something's weird about that. That bank was getting robbed right then.
Oh no!
And I went, and as soon as I got to the station, the call comes out. Yeah, I was so mad too. I was so mad. And I went in there. I was like, so what? You know, after the fact, all done. I'm the next day talking to the manager, like, what did you guys do? He goes, he just waved a gun. He asked for some money. We hit the silent alarm. He left. He pulled off. You guys came down the street and chased after him. And I think he ended up getting caught later on. But during that, I'm like, dude, I almost stopped. I wish I would have. And he goes, why? He might have shot you. I go, but that's my job. I'm supposed to be here to stop that. So it's just that, you
Right.
know, that communication breakdown between the civilian and the police. I'm like, no, you shouldn't have came in. He had a gun. Well, so do I.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I'd be willing to bet some money on it. I probably train more on mine than he has on his.
Exactly.
And that's just at the department that I work for, let alone what I do on my own or what I've done before.
Exactly.
But so yeah, like I don't want to change. You're like, what? You don't take that attitude away from me either. Like I wouldn't want that. I need to have the mentality of that bank's getting robbed. I need to go in there.
Yeah, that has to be present in
Yeah.
society.
So
There
same
has
thing
to
with
be.
you. If I was there, I could have saved my buddy's life. Absolutely. And I said the same thing about Cameron when he got shot up in Ferguson because we used to work. I was on vacation when it happened. And in my mind and memory in it, I thought we were still working in the car when it happened. That's how much of the survivor's guilt I felt like I let him down because I was on vacation when he got shot. Even though we weren't working in the same car anymore, we hadn't for like a year, as we
Oh,
discovered in our conversations. But it's just funny how you remember things. Anyway, go ahead. I interrupted. I've been on my soapbox long enough. I'll get off.
No, I love it. I love it. You're killing it. Yeah, I was saying that like although that like it's so crazy in society we get told don't be aggressive, don't do this and do this. And we know that to an certain extent. But a lot of people don't want to hear this. It is necessary and essential for people to have that mentality within our country, within our society, within our communities, because that's what keeps us safe. A lot of people forget that there's this barrier of people and equipment basically that allows them to live their lives on a daily basis the way they do within society, and they've forgotten that, you know, and they almost at the same time as enjoying those freedoms condemn us for being those people. So it's really like a tricky situation. And imagine
You
if
should be making it up, but you're not.
I know I'm not. It's crazy, and men are being told not to be men. You know, not
I
to
know.
step up to the line. And imagine like that is exactly what an enemy would want to do to another person is make them believe that them being strong is actually a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
You
What do you
know,
think would
now it
happen?
does.
What would happen if
The
all of
greatest
us men
psyop
did that?
campaign we have out there, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And what would
Doing it
happen
to
if we all
himself.
did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then all of a sudden, you know, you see it in law enforcement, the people who are throwing middle fingers at you one day are calling you up and saying, "Hey, I need your help." You know, so it's such a weird situation to be in, you know, when you're trying to protect your the people around you, especially you're in your own community, they're giving you the middle finger for doing it, but then they call you when stuff goes bad and ask, how can this possibly happen? And you're like, because this is the way the world works.
Yeah.
And so basically you see everyone's worst day, and then you just figure out no one's ever getting the drop on me ever again. There's like three big things that are happening there, but it's like as soon as someone gets on a drop on you in law enforcement, it's never happening again. You know what I mean? Like, and that does affect the way you talk to people, treat people, and all that kind of stuff. But you do have to put like a barrier around yourself. Like, I'm getting home today, so I have to take care of myself, and I have to, represent myself in the right way. And it's just some people just don't understand that that's going on a daily basis, that you've got military personnel out there hiding in holes while they're getting bombed around them and working as a team to stay alive. Like it's just.
What was that Spectre plane shooting at you guys? 50 cal or higher?
Oh man, no, they're doing the 150s.
They were doing 150 millimeter.
Yeah. Yeah, when I say they shelled the hell of that mountain, the side of that mountain, they shelled it.
Yeah. Well, they were making more holes for you to crawl into if you wanted.
I know. If they would have just been off by a little bit, we would have been a smear.
Yeah.
Man, what does that feel like when they're all going off? Is it like just feeling the concussions through the air or the ground, or it's
You're
just
feeling it in the ground and in the air? I'm trying to think of. So the closest I've felt to it on the civilian side, and it still wasn't close, is at SLU when they were doing their fireworks display in one of the 4th of Julys. I was in the parking garage, the concrete parking garage, and they were launching from the top of that parking garage. And so when it was doing that, the concussion that was happening, like the level down and the noise was kind of close to it. I mean, that's the closest
was it probably a dud? The fireworks, when they dudded, are probably the closest to artillery sound that I thought when fireworks go up. And having an echo around a parking garage, I can imagine that would probably add to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you could also feel the vibration, because it's just right there.
Yeah.
Did you see? Did you hear? We may not have released that episode yet. I just talked about this recently on an episode. There's some new study coming out where they compared cross sections, like CAT scan cross sections of brain damaged individuals from bad car accidents that they thought was TBI in a car accident, and then what they thought was TBI in an explosive, just from the shock wave. And the way that it highlighted the damage was very noticeably different between the two. There were some similarities, this blackness, but it was like a black splatter on the car accident, and it was like a thin smoke line around the brain layers. It almost looked like smoke line. That's what I thought it looked like. After you smoke a briquette, you cut it, you can see the line going just like 1/4 of an inch around the outside. It was like that, but black around the gray matter. So what they've discovered is basically what this means is that shock waves from a big explosion, like 150 millimeter rockets exploding around you, that shock wave can actually damage your brain worse than a car accident TBI, and in a different way, and it can affect your memories and your cognitive abilities. And I'm quite certain this is probably what's going on in my head and why I'm brain damaged from when I got hit.
I know I am.
I was gonna say, all those going off, it probably if this stuff is legit, a real study, and it's going to be confirmed, it'll probably still take the VA 5 to 10 years before they apply it.
Of course.
But I just feel like there's hope for the future of us brain damaged individuals. How's that?
Yeah, I know. I have some brain issues. I mean, obviously, I have it on scan, but I noticed that sometimes it's hard for me to find my words, and sometimes I feel like I'm just living in the cloud.
There's haze.
Yeah.
It's just a haze. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been catching up to me a lot too.
And the older I get, more, and sorry to cut you off, but
you're fine.
That's where I do kind of get worried is, I hope that the older I get and I've been able to fight off all these emotions just logically, if my brain starts going bad, I don't want to be one of these dudes that snap all of a sudden and not realize it and go do stupid shit, because they say after you hit 40, it's harder for you to keep all those things in check. And like I told you earlier, I was already a violent kid. I liked to fight. Like it was fun. Like it gave me that rise. It wasn't, I was bullying anybody. You could be bigger. I didn't care.
Right.
I just liked to fight. I loved football only to hit people. Like I played football to hit people and didn't care. I'd throw my body at them, do head, spearing them with my helmet and like everything you're not supposed to do. But like I said, then I've always been able, even at a young age, keep it in check. Like I knew there was a time for it and not a time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of people have issues doing that. And I've always been able to do that. But then I do get scared, like, okay, is there going to come a time where I can't anymore? Like my brain just doesn't function the way it's supposed to. So that is a fear of mine. Like,
Me too. I've discussed that with my wife before because you know, I I screwed up my head. I played lacrosse, concussions all over the place, and then did dumb stuff as a kid. I fell off a car, my brain was bleeding, shot in the head, like all this kind of stuff. And
I like how you just said
I
that.
haven't gotten hit, no, this kind of stuff, but
so it's like I'm afraid that aggressive person is what will come out and be like the prime what am I trying to say? I just don't want it to be my like go-to character that I play, and it be my like predispositioned. Uh, what am I trying to say?
so
I
what you're
just don't
saying
want to
is
be
you
like
don't want
my
that to be your number one personality. You want it to be like your number 10.
right. Like I don't want it to be my default. Yeah, my default does not need to be an aggressive person who's going to get in situations where the police are going to get called. I'm going to try to like explain my way out of it. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to be that person. That's going to cause problems, not only for me, but for my family. And that really kind of like gives me that kind of like I can't be that person. If I end up being that person, maybe I think of other stuff like maybe that's the end of me kind of deal. But anyways, that's funny that you say that
Oh, thank
because
you.
because I just don't want that to be my default. I want to because it's just like when you go off on somebody and you realize 30 minutes later that you were wrong, it doesn't feel good. Like and
I've
I've
had a
done
few of
that.
those on Dennis.
Yeah. And like afterwards you're just like, what the hell, like you just come in on yourself and
But imagine if you didn't have that. Imagine if you didn't have that afterwards.
no, I know, and that's what I'm afraid
That's
I'd
what I'm saying
lose.
to get to is where
Yeah.
not only do I not have one of those, but maybe I don't even remember it in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Like no restraint, like no cues, nothing to indicate that the temperature's heating up. Because for a while there, I was just like, it's already on fire. Let's roll. You know what I mean? I'm ready to die on this hill over the smallest freaking thing. And then you like realize you're like, that was the dumbest thing. That was a waste of energy. This is me, like I was a waste of energy. I don't feel good about myself. Other people are probably looking at me this way now and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, so things we do to ourselves in our head are a lot worse than actually what's going on, but,
Yeah.
yeah, that is interesting that you've had those thoughts. I don't want that to be my default, because if my brain goes and my attitude is always towards aggression, I'm going to turn into a problem. I don't want to be a problem. You know, I'm supposed to be a fixer. I'm supposed to be helping. So I get where you're coming from. That's interesting.
Yeah. And it also scares me too, because you hear about these dudes like in the news that take out their whole family or whatever, and then they don't even remember it. They blanked out during that whole session.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And they've got, like definitely.
Yeah.
Well, if you think you get to that point, you better let me know so we can come take your guns out of the house for Randy's sake.
I would never get right now. I never get to that point. Like I said, right now it takes a lot to rile me up. Now, don't get me wrong. My kids seem to be able to get.
They get under your skin real quick, don't they?
Yeah, they used to not. Like I used to have. Oh, well, but I don't feel as bad because Randy's in the same boat. So our kids have finally been able to strike that nerve, and they can do it immediately now, to where it's like instant yelling, instant wanting to eat them.
Their training is almost complete. Their transition to the dark side.
Yeah, it is. And like Randy just said, it's a combination from all the stress. Like,
You guys just had a
moving.
tornado come through. I mean, come
Well,
on.
so, like the funny story about that is because, we're PCSing from Texas to here.
Yeah.
And luckily, thank God, my dad said, hey, they changed my surgery date to March 13th, right? Because that was our close date on the house. And I was like, okay. So I call him. I'm like, hey, we need to change the close date to the 20th because I'm going to Colorado. Dad has a surgery. So we changed it to the 20th. Well, the 13th going into the 14th, whenever the tornado exactly hit here, it ended up, tearing up the house.
Yeah.
And so luckily it's not our insurance fixing it. It's theirs. But, we don't have any of our stuff here. The sleeping arrangements suck. And of course, so you have the move plus trying to get these contractors to get everything done. Plus, we're on what? Yeah. We're on our third contractor because, they've had to fire some because they just.
But the people you're buying the house from is being real nice with their insurance, letting you help pick things that you want done.
Oh, yes.
To be redone.
I mean, no, that is nice. The fact that it got to the point where the homeowner, because he lives in North Carolina, he's like, you guys find the contractors, you guys, you're there, have it done how you want it, blah, 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 So, I mean, there's the
silver lining,
a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
A silver lining, however you want to say it. But
I was sharing this with Cameron a little bit too, but how perfect is this as an example of resiliency? Sometimes a trauma can hit you and it can mess up your plans and change things out a little bit. But if you just have a little patience and a little grace and you take your time, you end up getting something better than you wanted anyway. Or something better you would have ended up with anyway. So sometimes you just need that time and that belief and then and to control what you control and just stay positive and things will work out.
Oh, exactly. And it's a pain, trust me, because my wife, sometimes she's very impatient. And she's right here listening. And she will.
Newsflash: women impatient. Nobody's the only impatient woman.
I have to tell her the exact same thing Dennis just said. I have to be like, okay, look, but when it's done, we're not going to have to do much anything else to this house, right?
Yeah.
And we're getting this and we're getting to choose this without us having to spend that money on it. And she's like, I know. But she wants it now. Like she said, I just want it now. And it's like,
instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
These dang phones are doing it to all of us. We can look up. It's ruined my bar game. I used to be able to have bar trivia left and right. People would believe me. I could bullshit the best of them. Now they can look it up and call me a liar.
I know, right there, dude. Like, no saying you're a freaking photographer for Maximum Magazine doing, rating the party cities.
You could probably get by with that every once in a while. So.
Yeah. Depends on how drunk, I guess.
Well, we've given us a good hour of talking. I'm sorry we never got to any other really good stories. There was one that I wanted to bring up, but I'm going to do it offline. See if it was one you even wanted to talk online sometime.
Yeah.
But it was great. I was glad you came on. Happy to have you.
Randy says she wants to be part of your show.
Okay.
All right.
You be part of the after show?
She'll be part of that too. You know that.
Turn the record button off?
Yeah. She's like, can you make me slimmer?
If we work at it for a couple hours, yeah, sure.
But no, she'll be a good one to have on your show too.
Yeah, if she seriously wants to talk about stuff, absolutely, we'd love to have her on. Yeah. Let's do it.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Tell her when we get done with this. Tell her to just text me some possible dates.
Okay.
Even if just loosely, like Wednesdays work better than any other days, something like that, and then we'll start nailing down a time in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, because she has a lot of good stuff just from her upbringing alone.
Yeah.
Cool.
And how she's had to be resilient and not end up like all of her other people here in St. Louis that are either dead or on the verge of,
Yeah, and she had to deal with you. So
yeah, and then she has to deal with me. I know, like she has to be really resilient with that. She goes, "Fuck
yeah." Your kids. And your kids, your little hellion
Well,
kids.
and my offspring, exactly. You know, even though they act more like her.
Yeah, we'll get the real story from her when she comes on in a couple weeks.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us, and I'm sure we could have you on again. You can tell even more stories,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting other people see that there's other dudes who are struggling with some stuff, and struggling is not the right word. We're just going through normal stuff that everybody does. And turns out when you get older, that box starts to get a little more tight. So we're just dealing with some of the stuff that's coming out and encouraging other people to do the same. Instead of just, deciding that it's not worth handling and taking the back door. We want people to hang it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's
All
the
right,
big
guys.
goal.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's the number one goal, that someone out there listening can grab something from this conversation and apply it in their world, or possibly pass it on to somebody else. What else are we here for, right?
Exactly.
All right, thanks,
Right,
Brandon.
guys.
Have
Well,
a good
thank you
week.
so much.
All right, we'll do. Talk to you later.
Good seeing you guys too. That's we'll bring this one to an end.
Hey, you. You like what you saw? Hit that like button. It's right there. Just hit the like button. It's not a big deal. Just hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the like button.